everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This month's video is a little bit different because today is a collaboration video with Lottie Manning. So Lottie reached out to me a few months ago and was like, hey, I'd love to interview you for my channel. Are you down for that? And I was like, yeah, in fact, let's make it a collaboration and I'll interview you on my channel. So that is what this video is. If you want to check out Lottie's video interviewing me, I will leave a link in the description. And also just check out Lottie's channel in general. She has lots of great content, lots of interviews with different people in our industry. So if you're looking for lots of different perspectives, then definitely head over there after watching this because you'll have a great time. And in this video today, I spoke to, well, not today, last week. We filmed it last week. And in this video, I chatted with Lottie and picked her brain about her experience entering this industry, which is very different from mine. Everything from being at the beginning of her career and kind of starting out, having not gone to drama school, and the pros and cons of how that has affected her approach to the industry, her thoughts on fame and social media, all of that stuff. So it was really interesting, and hopefully it will give you guys a different perspective on what being in this industry is like. I will leave timestamps in the description if you want to jump to a particular topic, but without further ado, let's get into the interview. Okay, so hello Lottie. So lovely to have you on the channel. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. A bit warm, I'm gonna be honest, but yeah, we're all good. So yeah, thank you so much for doing this collaboration with me. It would be nice to have a chat with you, kind of a different perspective in entering into this industry that is theatre, performing arts, acting. So just to get us started, can you just let us know, well, let my audience know and let me know how you got started in this industry? Like what made you think, yeah, I want to be an actor, and kind of your path so far?
Good question. Well, I did it at school, and I think there was a show at school that I wasn't going to audition for, I think. So I found one outside of school, and it was like a professional adult cast and then like a community cast of children. So I did that when I was 13. That was A Christmas Carol, which you're going to be in.
Yeah, love A Christmas Carol.
And then I did another Christmas show after that. I did A-level drama, and during lockdown, I joined a digital youth theatre that was based so far away, like 90 miles away from me. But then I learned there what a drama school was and all of that. I auditioned for that, and I did various different other classes, and now I audition for shows, and that's it, really. I don't know.
Nice. So you're really at the start of your career then at the moment.
Yeah.
How have you found auditioning for shows like kind of without having gone to drama school and things like that? Did you find it really daunting at first, or did you feel like you were able to just jump right into it? Do you feel like you had a lot of guidance in how that all works?
Well, I think I've been quite lucky in my classes that I've had a lot of opportunities to speak to a lot of people who are in the industry. I feel like because sometimes, like, especially in-person auditions don't come by very often, I'm just grateful to have the opportunity. But I feel like it's very different since I've not gone to drama school. I feel like a lot of people who are going for these auditions have done. So
Yeah.
that's where it's a bit different.
Yeah. Do you feel that having not been to drama school, that there are some, like, what, well, I guess an easier question would be like, what do you think are the advantages and disadvantages from like your experience having not gone to drama school versus the experience of people you know who have gone to drama school? Do you think there are pros and cons to the way you've started out in your career so far?
Well, I think so. I think the benefits of me not going is that I've got used to the balancing training with working, and I've not got the balance right yet, but I think that while you're at drama school, you're in a little bubble, and then once you come out, then it's a lot harder. And I feel like when you're not in drama school, you're constantly having to ask yourself, what's next? What am I going to do now? And I think that I've heard from casting directors, I feel like I'm just going to be quoting other people.
No, that's all right. No, that's absolutely fine.
I've heard that sometimes they can be a little bit polished going into auditions. Like you say, what have you been doing recently? And they list off their CV. Whereas I try and keep the more raw element of my acting and keep it more truthful, because I do a lot of screen acting. So I try and keep it like I'm trying to connect to the emotions and not trying to complicate it with other techniques, bring them in if I want to, but not trying to overflow my process, I guess.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see that as being a pro of not going the traditional drama school route. Obviously, I did train, but I trained a little bit later and I went to uni first and had a couple of years out while I was auditioning. And I definitely, even as someone who also went to drama school, I can see the difference between people who go a bit later versus people who go like straight when they're 18. I feel like if I went to drama school when I was 18 and did a 3 year, I I would have been a completely different actor. And I think, yeah, there's something about the life experience of not being in that bubble, as you say, that does affect how you come across and affects like your your craft, I guess. Are there things that you like that you regret about not having been to drama school yet? Are there things that you think that you're missing out on, or that you think or just that you wish you'd had those experiences instead?
I think potentially, but I try and always be constructive with these, because I think it's quite easy to be like, oh, I don't have this and I don't have that. But I try and look at it as like, well, what am I going to do about this? Because I don't want to be stuck here complaining about it forever.
Yeah.
So I think there's like the aspect that I'm not surrounded by loads and loads of actors. I know them from a few different places, but I don't know as many people my own age who are doing it. So I think there's that aspect, that you're not surrounded by people who are doing the same thing every day, so it's a bit more isolating.
Mhm.
And also there's not people who are actively networking for me and putting me in touch with people. There is an element of that from my classes, but I feel like there's a lot more, your training's organized for you. And like I was speaking to my friend who's at uni, and she says that like, oh, I don't know whether she'll want me to say it, but I have a lot of friends at uni, so they won't know which one it is. But I feel like when you're at uni, like if you don't do anything else and you're not proactive in your training, then the training's still going to happen and you're still going to have stuff to do, whereas it's a bit different for me.
Yeah, no, that's very true. It's kind of a safety blanket, isn't it? It's like even with just not even drama school, just uni in general, you get that moment where you're about to graduate,
Yeah.
you're like, oh no, I'm gonna be like a proper adult now. It kind of you can delay that kind of sense of responsibility, definitely. What are your like dreams, like blue sky thinking, if you could be in any film, any production, what would like your dream role be?
That's a good question. I feel like I don't think about that too much because I want to be like acting to act.
Hmm.
And I think that if I think about that too much, I won't actually remember why I'm doing it.
Ah, okay.
But I think there's a lot of roles that I'd like to do. I've been told my casting type is quirky girl, and I was initially quite upset about that. I was like, what's that meant to mean? But I think that means that I could go up for some really interesting roles, because it's not quiet girl, and I feel like there could be quite a lot of plot lines. Like I want to be open to trying different things. I want to do TV because I think that would be so interesting to have such a longer storyline and a storyline each episode. Um, I'd quite like to do something set in the 80s or something,
Oh.
like period drama. Um, and I'd quite like to do some Shakespeare as well.
What's your experience with Shakespeare been so far? Has it just been what you've done at school? Or
Well, we did a bit at school. And I also did a lot of Shakespeare classes at the youth theatre that I went to. So that's where I learned more of the acting side of Shakespeare. So I did a lot of classes there and I learned a lot about it, because I feel like when you're just reading it, it's quite hard to
Yeah.
connect to it. And for a while when I was younger, I just hated Shakespeare, but now I actually quite like it.
Yeah, I think the school system does Shakespeare a bit of a disservice because yeah, it's kind of it comes to life when it's said out loud and it's like on its feet, I think. But hey, I guess exams need to exam, so
I mean, we did a bit of that. I remember I wanted to play Shylock
oh yeah.
and read it out loud, and then I didn't get given that part. And then
Oh no, Charlotte's a good character. I haven't read The Merchant of Venice in so long, actually. Maybe I should reread it. I feel like Shakespeare's similar to musicals in that if you see bad Shakespeare, it puts you off for like ever. I
yeah,
feel like a lot of people who say they hate musicals or they hate pantomimes, I'm often like, have you just seen bad ones though? Like sometimes things aren't their bag, and like if you
yeah,
really, like I've seen loads of musicals, never really liked them, then fair enough. But like a lot, I think it's just a very unforgiving like like if you watch a bad TV show, yeah, it's bad, but like it's
yeah,
not going to be like so horrendously bad. It's just going to be like some mediocre acting, there's a bit of a boring plot. Whereas like if Shakespeare's bad, you're like, I have no idea what is happening,
yeah.
right? So
I think one of the first Shakespeare plays I went to see, it was like a promenade performance, and there was audience interaction, and I was brought up in front of everyone, and I didn't know what was going on.
oh no.
What's going on? I hadn't followed anything that was going on, and I was like, why am I here? Like, what's going on? What are you saying to me?
Yeah, no. In the last show I did was a Shakespeare, and my character wasn't one of the biggest characters, but I was in a lot of scenes. So I had this moment in rehearsals where I was like, oh no, I need to actually understand what everyone else is saying because I'm
Oh
in this scene and I
no.
need to react to it. I was like, oh God. But like it all worked out in the end. But yeah,
Yeah.
I just had that moment of being like, I'm in more of this than I thought I was. I need to know what's happening. Ah. But yeah, that's always fun. I would be really interested in asking you actually about how the people in your life who aren't actors or performers or in theatre or performing arts, like friends, family, like how do they kind of react to like what you're pursuing? Are they quite supportive? Do you ever have to deal with those like, oh, have you in something I've seen, or like, oh, you should go on X Factor, and like, do you ever get those kinds of stuff, or are they quite down to earth and like if they don't understand it, like they try and understand it as much as they can?
Don't know what to say, because if my family or friends watch it, they'll be like, is that a person
Uh,
who's
fair
talking
enough.
about
You don't
what?
have to. You don't have to answer
I
that
can
question.
answer it. I think I'm like friends with quite a lot of people who are involved in it, and like quite a lot of the jobs that I have are like in theatres. Like I work as a theatre technician,
Yeah,
so even when I'm working there, sometimes people understand what it's about because it's a theatre.
yeah,
So I feel like I'm surrounded by quite a lot of people who know about it, and if they don't, I tell them enough about it that they do end up knowing a lot about it.
yeah. So, as a theatre technician, then, what drew you to working as a theatre technician as well? Was that just wanting to be in the industry as much as possible, whilst you're like kind of establishing yourself, or are there also things about working in the tech side of things that you enjoy?
Well, if I'm completely honest, I applied for 3 jobs at the same theatre because I wanted to work there. And
Yeah.
I applied for this one because I wanted to have like a trio of job applications. And this is the one that I got. And then I was like, I feel like I'm quite, like, I feel like it's a very weird industry to be a part of because you're thrown into it and it's very male dominated, and you have to learn, like, you're never going to learn everything if you're not there all the time, and I'm not there all the time. So I feel like it's taught me a lot about the other sides of theatre, but also I don't know that much about it still.
Yeah. Well, that'll take time. And I know what you mean, having spoken to women that I've worked with who do work in the more technical side, so stage management and also as
Yeah,
technicians, that it is a very male dominated
very male.
side of the industry. So yeah, but it's cool that you're able to do it though. It must be really interesting. I've never done any technical side of theatre at all. Kind of
You
like,
understand the technical side though.
yeah, I think so. I mean, like the understanding that you get from working in the in the industry, and obviously like, I mean, the big thing is tech rehearsals. Like tech rehearsals is when everything is just for the technical side. So you learn stuff there. I did do one job where I in some of the bigger kind of tours, and I think sometimes in town as well, although it I don't know how it works there, but like sometimes you get roles that are like actor ASM. So you're an actor, usually you're covering one of the roles, which is what I was doing, and the
Yeah.
other person who was also an actor ASM, but then you're also the assistant stage manager, so you're in charge of props. Um, and I feel like I'd like to think that I've always been respectful of kind of the back of house team, and the technical and stage management teams, but having to actually do that job, it definitely gives you an even deeper understanding of like how much time goes into that stuff.
Yeah.
Like you're always like there before the rest of the company, you're there after the rest of the company. It's a lot of work. um I mean, I personally think actor ASMs are problematic because you're taking jobs away from actual ASMs who actually know what
So,
they're doing. So that's a whole other issue, but I
yeah.
think it definitely gave me more of an understanding of how hard it
Very
actually.
hard job.
Yeah.
Like I see people doing it and I think it's really like impressive. Like how do you know so much about all these different elements of stuff? I don't want to undersell myself because then people will be like, oh, you're not qualified to do that job.
No. I don't. Well, I think if you go back in history, like the thought of like drama school and training is a really new thing. People used to learn in rep. Like you
Yeah.
go to a theatre and be like, "Hey, have you got any jobs going in a rep company?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, sure." And you'd be doing a show a week whilst learning another show. And in terms of, I mean, I can't speak for technical backstage stuff because I think there obviously there has to be an element of like this is how the light works and stuff.
Yeah.
But most of the stuff that I've learned, definitely from an actor's perspective, I've learned more doing jobs than I did at drama school. There were some really important fundamentals that I learned at drama school, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but you learn most of it on jobs and doing jobs and having to problem solve and work with people and watching other people and how they do their thing. And yeah.
I think so because I always get told at work like everyone's quite chill about it because they're like if you don't know certain things you won't know until you learn them. Like everyone's had to start from the same
Yeah.
position, so everyone's been there. So it's just about learning and developing. And I know more than I used to. So I think that's the same with all jobs, really.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of in general. I think not saying education's a lie because I love education because I'm a nerd,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, most of life you learn after you leave school, college, uni, drama school, and then you're like, oh, this is what it is. Oh God, that makes me sound so old.
No.
It's like old wise lady being like, yes, this is what it actually is about, kids. Yeah, that's just me. And also just to wrap up on the technical thing, I think especially in regional theatres, like a lot of the technical team are just people who are like, hey, like to work here, and like either applying for a job because there's an opening, or just like from teenagers been hanging around and been like, hey, how does this work? And they're like, okay, come on board. Like so many tech people who I've spoken to are like, that's basically how they started at their local theatre.
Yeah, I think that's how you learn. Because when there's quiet moments, there's always the opportunities to like ask questions if you don't understand. Like that's how you would learn. Because I think it's quite easy to just pretend that you know what's going on. And obviously there's times where you can't just be hassling everyone with questions, but it's important for everyone's safety that you do ask if you're unsure.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, because stages are dangerous places. I think people don't realize how dangerous they are. It's
It's
really.
made me a bit scared of theatre, really.
Oh no, don't be scared of theatre. Just, use your common sense. But yeah, no. Stages are very can be very dangerous places if you're not being safe.
Yes.
So what's next for you at the moment? Have you got any projects coming up? Are there any other elements of performing or theatre or film that you're interested in learning more about?
Well, I feel like I take every opportunity to audition that I can. Like I've auditioned for roles that I'm like, this is so far away from what I usually do. So I'm trying to just take every opportunity. But I'm doing the National Youth Theatre in the summer,
Yes.
and I'm training mostly in screen, so I want to get more opportunities to do short films. And I feel like that's quite like not many people, their specialism and the main thing they do is screen. Like I feel like that's something that's quite often avoided a bit in not avoided, but not covered as much.
Yeah, I think definitely in drama school the emphasis is, I don't think there is, maybe there's a more modern course that focuses on screen and then theatre is secondary, but all of the major drama schools, the focus is on screen. And like, I mean, my course was slightly different because it was musical theatre, but we had like a 2 hour screen workshop and that was it. And then I think when I was looking at drama schools and looking at kind of the straight acting courses, I think it was like a class a week maybe, or a class, and like not every year or something, versus obviously you have like certain acting classes every single day that are more kind of theatre based. So I don't know why that is. I guess the idea is that the techniques that you learn from like kind of the theatre craft are easier to transfer to screen than the other way around. But I do think it puts drama school graduates at a bit of a disadvantage
Yeah.
because we're not as like, I'm not used to being in front of a camera
Yeah.
in that capacity. Um,
Because I think, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say I've done some like screen classes after the fact, so I know like some more of the mechanics of it, like
Yeah.
hitting your mark and eye lines and things like that. But like I've never been on an actual set, for example. So
I've done a lot of extra work, so I feel like I'm a lot more used to being on set now. And because I've mainly just trained in screen, like I've done theatre before,
mm,
but most of my training has been in screen. And I feel like it's a very different process. Like you can tell when people are coming from theatre into screen, because when you just train mainly to just do screen, there's a very different process and very different techniques behind it. So it's very interesting.
yeah, I can imagine. So with your experiences being on set, like what would you like, what is being on a set like? Because like I said, I've never been on a set before. So
It's a very long days. I've done a night shoot there as well, and I've also done daytime stuff, and it's usually like 12, 13 hours. The like you get there, you have breakfast for an hour,
mhm.
and then you get into costume, and you get there about 7, usually, and then by about 8:30, maybe you've gone through costume and makeup if you're going through makeup, and then you're on set until lunch at about 1, and then you have an hour lunch break, and then you're there for the rest of the day. But the majority of the day is just waiting around, and you'll film a bit, and then it will be cut, and then you'll wait for ages until you go back. And there's a lot of words as well that you don't know what they mean.
Yeah.
You've been there for a while. Like people will be like, what are they saying? And why are we doing this shot now? And I feel like you just get used to it by doing it.
Mm.
Like I spent 20 days on one show, and I think that taught me a lot.
Yeah. I guess because you're in the same environment, you kind of that can ground you so you can have more of an understanding of what's going on, I guess.
Yeah.
So where do you, because I've heard from just like listening to um like screen actors talk about their jobs that they're apparently the whole phrase is like hurry up and wait, like you have to be on time and then you wait around for ages. Like where do you wait? Do you wait like on the set, or do you have trailers as a supporting artist, or like is there like a communal place that you go?
Well, there's usually an essay holding area, or sometimes if there's one area that's not being filmed in for that day, that's the kind of designated place. So it can change depending on like which rooms they're using, which sets they're not using. So
Uh,
sometimes like if you're not needed for a certain shot, even like when it was -7, you get told go inside, and sometimes you wait in areas that are like areas that you might be filming in later. But it just changes every day.
Just depends on where's free.
Yeah, there'll be a decision made, and that will be where you're taken.
In terms of your supporting like essay work, supporting artist work, have any of the things that you've been in come out yet, or are they still in like post-production?
A few of the things have come out. I know though that you have to sign a thing to say that like you're not meant to talk about it. So
I'm thinking about it. Okay, fair.
I don't know. I feel like you're allowed to talk about it because I've done unpaid stuff as well. Like I think I've done like 7 different projects or something. So for screen. So but
Fantastic.
it is weird seeing yourself in the background of stuff. You're like, what's going on there? And you remember what was going on that day for you,
Yeah.
what conversations you were actually having in the background.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, no, I've never had that experience. That's
Although
really
actually, I think it's quite different to theatre because you don't actually need any skills to be in the background of a show. Like you don't need to be trained. Like in ensemble, you have a lot of training, but like anyone can be in the background of a show. You just have to learn to like mime, because if there's dialogue, you have to like not actually say anything because it will mess up the audio. So you're
yeah.
just miming, and you're like, we won't understand each other, but that's okay.
Just look like we're having a great time.
Yeah, so you get given sometimes a bit of direction, like they might be like, oh, you're really excited at this moment, but you quite often don't know the exact plot because that's confidential.
Yeah.
So quite often you're like, oh, I'm really hyped and I don't know why. It's quite interesting, but I would love to have an actual storyline in Scream rather than just whatever's going on.
Yeah. I was about to ask the annoying question that everyone always asks you, because I don't know if you've ever found this, but like when I, especially when I meet new people and I say, oh, I'm an actor, and they don't know about that, like they don't know other actors or other people in the industry, they'll be like, oh, that's so glamorous. And I'm like, it's really not. Like, do people do the same thing with you when you're like, oh, I've been filming for this thing?
Yeah, I was speaking to a man on the train the other day. I don't know. He started speaking to me. And he was like, where are you off to? And I was like, oh, an acting class. And he was like, have you done anything? And I was like, oh, I've done some extra work. And he's like, oh, that's really cool. And I'm like I feel like everyone gets quite hyped. They're like, you've been on TV. But I feel like if they were actually there, we're just waiting around. Sometimes it's too hot, sometimes it's too cold. Like every time you're on set, you're not dressed for the weather.
Yeah.
You're just like either too hot or too cold. You're there for hours and hours and hours. And you're like, this isn't what people think it is.
Yeah.
Like it's you have to really want to do this industry to be able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I guess I'd be interested in knowing your thoughts, because this is something that I think quite a lot about, also because it came up in the book I was reading. But like ideas of fame, like I find when I tell people or meet new people and tell them what I do, they're always like, oh, remember us when you're famous, or like um I think when we were chatting before we started filming about the idea of me as a singer being like, and I'm like, oh, I do musical theatre. It's like, oh, so when are we going to see you on X Factor? Or
Yeah.
you should apply to be in Hollyoaks, or you should be in EastEnders. All of the things that to like non performing people are like, they seem like the pinnacle, like, and the idea of being famous, of being known. Is that something that, like, well, I guess what are your thoughts about that, about pursuing fame or being famous? Is that something that you want? Is it something that you care about?
No, I don't want it at all. Like I feel like I know of people in the industry who are vaguely like known, and it seems really inconvenient. Like I
Yeah.
want to be able to live my life, and I think a lot of people do mention it, and I think it's nicer than them just telling you not to do it. I think it's coming from a good place when people say it. And obviously, like, it would be nice to work on those kind of projects, but I don't know about the fame, because I feel like I did like the Commonwealth Games opening ceremony,
Nice.
and there was so many conspiracy theories of people being like, oh, this is like the second coming of Jesus, like the apocalypse is starting. Because they'd read into stuff and they'd be like, oh, there's an eye there, that means something. Or they'd be like, these people are bowing to the devil because there's the bull that symbolizes Birmingham. And there was a dance around it, and they're like, they're worshipping the devil. And people will just say whatever they like, and they'll assume that they know you. And I think it's all a bit weird.
I agree. I when you hear about like major celebrities needing to like book out whole cinemas just so they can watch a film, and it's like, yeah, I don't think I think for me, I think what's more important is doing work that I find creatively fulfilling and rewarding. And I guess like I think I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't want to be like recognized for if I do good work. Like
Yeah,
would I say no to an Olivier? No, no, it would be nice. Like so I think like being known in the industry for like doing good work would be like that would be cool. I'm not really interested in being famous. I don't think being famous would suit me.
I
I,
don't think so, because I'm scared that like if I go into the audition room, people will know me from my videos and they'll have assumptions and they'll think I'll be like horrible or something, or they'll be like, oh, she isn't the same in real life, or she thinks she knows what's going on. Like, I don't want to cause problems for people like that. Like, I
yeah.
don't know. I think there's a lot of benefits to not being known.
And I think that's the difficult thing with I mean, I don't know how you feel about this as well, but the whole there's been an increasing instances of people being like when they're looking at castings, they're looking at your Instagram followers. And if you have a TikTok, like the job that I just did, like they didn't cast based on that, but like I'm finding more and more often when you're in a show and it comes to doing your bios of being like share your handles and things like that, and that kind of balance of like needing an online profile, but at the same time, like I don't know how you feel about social media, but like I find it draining. like like YouTube is my hobby and I enjoy it, but like Instagram I find really hard to keep up. I'm not on TikTok. I hardly ever look at Twitter. Like, how do you feel about I mean, do you even subscribe to that whole needing to have an online platforms and online followings and stuff?
Well, I think everyone will tell you different things about that, because some casting directors have been like, there could be something that you put out there that will mean that you're not able to take a certain job and we're going to have to turn you down when we've done background checks.
Hmm.
So I feel like there's so many people that will say contradicting things that you've just got to do. Well, obviously there are limits, but you've got to do what you think is works for you.
Hmm.
And I think like it should be about ability really sometimes, like who's best for the role. And I see why they cast it like that, and obviously there are reasons for it. But it does make me think, like, would there have been someone that they could have cast who could have done the role better and been a better fit for it? But we didn't cast that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I've definitely seen that when it's come to some celebrity casting, but then yeah, that's going down a whole other tangent that could that could go on for ages. But yeah, I think that's a very mature, I mean, you just in general have a really mature attitude, but like yeah, you've got to kind of make your own decision and do what's right for you with the knowledge of, you know, other perspectives, and then just take that on board and be like, okay, what am I gonna do? But yeah, well, it sounds like you're on the right track. You have a very mature attitude to
Thank
this
you.
industry, and it sounds like you're really passionate, and you've got a good head on your shoulders. So I'm sure that you'll go far. If we want to carry on, or if my viewers want to carry on, kind of following you, where can they find you? Obviously, I'll link your channel below, but is there anywhere else that people can what
Um,
you're doing?
I'm on Instagram, but it's not all that interesting. I try and use it moving back to the social media question, I try to use it as like a portfolio. Like I post pictures of performance things that I've done.
Yeah, I need to figure out what I'm doing with my Instagram because I don't know, and I just end up not posting. But awesome. Yeah, so shall I link your Instagram in the description as well so people can find you there if they're Instagram people. But yeah, it's been so lovely to have you on the channel, Lottie, and best of luck in the future. I'm sure we'll see you doing great things before too long.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. Take care.
So that was my interview with Lottie. Like I said, this is a collaboration, so definitely check out the video I did with her on her channel. There'll be a card right up there for you and also a link in the description. And then just check out the rest of her content, give her some love. She's a really lovely person and tell her that I sent you. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Would love to have you on the channel. Come on down. Also let me know if you liked this style and format of video and if you want to see more of it, just so I know what you guys are enjoying at the moment. Stay tuned for more theatre content from a UK perspective and I will see you all in my next video. Bye friends!